Hello, everyone, and happy Friday unto you. We will get to Friday Release Valve here momentarily. If you're new to the program, Friday Release Valve is where we take off that heavy mantle of thought and introspection and reading that we wear for the common good 6 days of the week, and we simply investigate funny headlines as a big old cathartic burst we can get into before we get into our weekend. And I invite in a couple of comedian friends to kick those headlines around with me. We will do that here in a minute. Again, if you're new to the program, the prestige flagship episode tends to come out on Wednesdays. This one's just for kicks, so don't be thrown off that all of a sudden we're discussing almost certainly Florida and animals doing weird stuff in Australia, which tends to be most global news. And be forewarned that there will almost certainly be swearing and possibly sexual content in the minutes to follow. Now, before we get into that, before we get into the Friday Release Valve, which I promise we will do here momentarily, I do believe it is incumbent to make some announcements. If you're a regular listener of this program, you are part of a community of like-minded people who believe in civility and rational discourse and probably having fun. And so it's not just you listening to me, it's you being a part of a group. And for that reason, when somebody that's a part of the political orphanage, that's a part of this community, has something cool that they're doing or something that they deserve applause for, please feel free to email me or contact me. That way, maybe I can throw it out for the benefit of the group. Now, Ethan Petty, or Ped, forgive me, Ethan, I forget how your surname is pronounced. I'm going to say Petty. Ethan Petty had a cool idea that I wanted to share with everybody. Now, I realize that announcements are super boring. I realize that, which is why I hired a British voice actor to read this one for me, and I told him to do it dramatically and to add a soundtrack. Let's go.
Hello, fellow orphans. For some time, one of my concerns has been when we celebrate and lionize violent and destructive events and people. I can rattle off half a dozen names of famous World War II generals without thinking, but I had to Google the 1983 nuclear close call to remember Stanislav Petrov. I'm putting together a calendar of alternative holidays for my family to celebrate in the interest of changing our mindset. I'm looking for people and events that should be widely remembered but aren't. I currently have Norman Borlaug, Vasily Arkhipov, the 1914 Christmas Truce, the 1992 Malice in Dallas, and the Velvet Revolution. If you know of a person who changed history for the better, or a time when things could have gone drastically wrong, but didn't, please let me know. I'm looking for the date of birth of the principal character or characters, and the date of the incident, if applicable, in case there's overlap. A brief description would be great too. Thank you.
Now, if you were overwhelmed by the Britannic grandeur of that reading, basically Ethan is looking for instances of peace to celebrate or obscure heroes of peace to celebrate, and I think that's a really neat idea because our culture tends to lionize military victory and military leaders, and there's so many heroes and so many wonderful things that we can actually think and focus on. I think this is a neat idea, and I want to help that project get off the ground. If you agree with me and you have some ideas, you can email Ethan. He's created an email address just for this project he's working on. That email address is obscureheroes21@gmail.com. I repeat, obscureheroes21@gmail.com. Next, I would be remiss if I did not tell you that my campaign for the vice presidency of the United States on the rogue Whig Party ticket is going swimmingly. It's going great. The outpouring of support has been incredible. The funding from billionaire donors has not really come in yet, but I feel like that's phase 2. So right now it's going really well. Big development with the rogue Whig Party this week. I did a straw poll online to pick the rogue Whig Party color. Republicans are the red team, Democrats are the blue team. If we're going to be a real party and make that monsoon of crypto Whigs swamp Washington, D.C. come November, then we need to have our own color. What should that color be? And there were a lot of really good suggestions that were brought up. Clear was a crowd favorite. Everybody thought clear would be pretty good. A lot of people wanted Whig white or wig silver, but the real screaming match was between Team Argyle and Team Paisley. And I'll tell you, the numbers are very clear on this. Team Argyle won out. Republicans are red, Democrats are blue. The rogue Whig party is Argyle. So get ready for an Argyle wave come November. And that brings us to our final announcement for today. The rogue Whig party needs your help, because if we're going to be a real party, we need to have an animal. An elephant, a donkey, a porcupine, something like that. We need to have an animal sigil. And so today, Friday, I am going to run a Twitter straw poll. My handle is @MightyHeaton. There'll be a poll up if you visit me, and it's which animal should be the rogue Whig party animal. The options are based on input that I've solicited from people: raccoon, honey badger, penguin, and platypus. Now, to be clear, this Twitter poll, much like certain political parties in their presidential nomination process, is non-binding. It's your job to confirm what I've already decided. And if you blunder on that and don't do the thing I've already decided, I'll just create a bunch of superdelegates to do the thing I wanted to do anyway. But up until then, you're welcome to try and change my mind. And I'm not going to tell you what animal I think is the best animal either. But I'm hoping that we all agree on this particular animal, because that would be cool. So hop on there, and next week I'll let you know the rogue Whig party animal. All right, I think that's all of the relevant announcements for both my vice presidential campaign and the political orphanage. Let's go to Friday Release Valve. Hello, everyone. It is Friday, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm tired of thinking. I did a super thinky episode earlier this week. It was a full hour of me scripting and saying my thoughts into a microphone. It involved a whole lot of glucose that I had to consume to put that together, and I'm tired of that. So we've done the thinking for the week. It's Friday. We're not going to think anymore. We're going to feel. And those feelings, they're going to be good feelings. They're going to be cathartic release valve feelings, funny feelings from the week's underserved headlines. And I am joined today to sort these out with two friends of mine who are very, very funny, Dr. Andrea Jones-Rooy and Professor Turner Sparks.
Yes, sir.
And before we jump in, first of all, it's very nice to see you both. And you both look so good during quarantine. Oh. Like I am increasingly looking like a character, like if there were an extra in Castaway, I kind of look like that. Like if Tom Hanks had a background actor kind of poking around the back of the island. You guys look fantastic.
I'm now going to reimagine Castaway with you in the background, and that will only improve my experience of the movie. That's nice of you to say. I do not feel fantastic. I, haven't worn pants in like 6 years. I see the sun every other week, So thanks.
I don't actually have any clean pants anymore because I've been staying with my parents, and their dog so enjoys playing fetch that when I work on the back porch, the dog will get frustrated with me and try and hide soggy tennis balls in my pants pockets. And or drop them in my lap. And so it looks like I've just been eating and dropping ice cream on myself for about 2 years now, and I don't have any clean pants anymore. But then I thought about it, and I was like, like one of my pants has a hole in it, and my mom was like, "Oh, you don't want to go out with that." And I was like, "Where would I go?
Yeah,
I'm not going to the gala. It's fine. Yeah." And Turner,
there's nowhere to go, and even when you do go out, everyone else looks like a complete mess anyway.
Yeah.
With this, 2020 is the year we survived. That's it. If you survived 2020, you've knocked it out of the park. Congratulations. And Turner, you're back in Brooklyn, aren't you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Yes.
Good. I'm glad you're holding that city together.
Yeah, I came back from Virginia 11 days ago, and then last night, Governor Cuomo said that if you're here from Virginia, you have to quarantine for 14 days. Yep. But he just added it last night. So I don't know if that means I now have to quarantine for 3 days, or if I left and I left a trail of coronavirus in my
Maybe you're the reason for the quarantine. They're like, someone came from Virginia and now the city is just fucked.
Typhoid Turner.
Trouble.
It just exploded on my way out of the building.
So you guys are going to help me?
I was going to go down to Maryland, but now I don't know if I will because I have to live inside forever. So that's not what I'm doing.
Now that we live in bubbles. So you guys are going to help me sort out headlines in a moment. But before we do that, I'm aware that you guys do shows, and I would love to plug them. So Turner, how's your Friday comedy show going, and where can people find it?
Oh, it's great. You can go to turnersparks.com. We do it on Zoom every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. It is a clean show. So everyone's quarantined with their kids. I'm assuming you don't have a lot of 16-year-olds listening to this show.
There's
this
3.
is more of an adult show. Okay. This is an adult show.
Yeah.
This is people in their 30s and 40s. So you're my demo. These are people your kids are running around. You can have our comedy show on. It doesn't matter. They can hear it. It's clean. We have some of the best comedians in the world. What's cool is you can get people from around the world. We had an 85-year-old lady from London on our show last weekend,
cool.
Lynn Ruth Miller. So, it's a blast. Go to turnersparks.com. It's free every Friday on Zoom, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Very nice. And Dr. Andrea Jones-Rooy, you are just a wonderful amalgam of smart and funny, and you do a combo smart and funny show on YouTube every week. What is that?
I do. I aim to be smart and funny. Sometimes I worry I end up being neither, but we'll set that aside and invite your audiences to come and judge for themselves. But the show is Ask a Political Scientist. It's on Thursdays. It live streams on YouTube at 7 p.m. And every week we have, so I'm a political scientist and a comedian. So we have a political scientist, a real political scientist come on and talk about their research. And we have another stand-up comedian join, and we have a conversation about, it's mostly about politics and what's going to happen in November and how horrible is everything, the news,
sure.
but
but
in like a fun way. So it's like NPR, but not as depressing.
Have you guys thought about this? Should we wear a mask?
Oh, God. Yeah.
That's a good debate nobody's talking about.
Yeah. We should get to the more rare topics.
Yeah.
And kind of, I don't know, maybe today when we go to the less appreciated headlines, we could touch on that, and finally give that some.
We might. I'm trying to. Did I put any mask stories in here? I can't remember because there were a couple. Like for whatever reason, like Wales produced an unusually large amount of news this week, where I actually had to cut some of them out. But like one of the headlines we're not going to cover is that Wales, out near Swansea, I think, or maybe I can't remember, somewhere on the coast, they were going to have a floating hotel, and I'm like, so a boat. A floating hotel is a boat, isn't it?
Great.
But it sank. Yeah. And I was like, well, okay, well, we got another Welsh headline we'll do. I'll tell you, the first headline actually isn't from Wales. It's from Ukraine. Hostage siege ends after Ukrainian president endorses Joaquin Phoenix film. So I won't read through all of this, but
that?
Huh?
Yeah. I wasn't going to go there, Turner, but thank you for doing that.
What did you say, Turner?
I believe, is it Joaquin?
Is it Joaquin? Okay.
Yeah.
I usually said, okay. So real quick, I used to go to an Eastern Orthodox church, and they would say Saint Joaquin. Like that was how they said it. But he's walking.
Yeah, it's a soft J. I believe it's a Spanish
Joaquin.
name.
Did I just become whiter? Like every time I say it, I become more translucent. Like I slowly turn into vanilla.
It's like you basically just said jalapeno.
Okay.
Jalapeno.
Joaquin.
If it makes you feel any better, for the first part of when you were talking about that whale story, I definitely thought you meant whales, like the sea animal.
Yeah,
and I was
stupid
really excited
whales.
to figure out. I was like, did whales sink the ship? What happened? Then I was like, oh.
You know what? I'd be on Team Whale. If that were the case, we'd do a whole episode on how you can help the whales like get revenge. I think that'd be irritated with all the boats. Like I get irritated just listening to lawnmowers when I'm trying to work. If lawnmowers could go like 50 miles, that would drive me batshit. So I imagine that, poor whales. No, hostage siege ends after Ukrainian president endorses Joaquin Phoenix, and I think it was an animal rights activist who, according to authorities, is a little bit unstable, which I think is backed up by this. He took a bunch of hostages, and this went on for a couple of days, I think. And part of his deal with the authorities of Ukraine was he would release the hostages if the president of Ukraine formally endorsed the film Earthlings from 2005. And so the president eventually came on, and he went, the film Earthlings, everyone should watch it. Human life is the most important value. We have not lost anyone. It doesn't sound like a really full-throated endorsement of the film, to be honest with you, but he did it. He played ball with it. So we can do a lot of things on this, but I'm just going to say, I don't want to get super conspiratorial. But I 100% think Joaquin Phoenix is behind this. I think he armed that man. I think he tracked down an unstable guy in Ukraine. I think he gave him a gun and $1,000 and would take a bunch of hostages and then tell the president to endorse my film. And I stand by that. And Joaquin, if you're listening, call me out.
I'm going to look for this movie trending on Netflix now, and or ask for a category of trending in the Ukraine these days, and see if it makes it there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a great idea for struggling actors. You know, Chris Elliott should do this with Cabin Boy.
Well, yeah, so I'm wondering, like,
he takes 13 people hostage, and he goes, President Trump, I will not let them out until you tweet that Cabin Boy was a good movie. Also, Heaton, does this remind you of every date we guys used to go on in high school? Like, wait, you have not seen Clerks? I will not let you go home until we are watching Clerks tonight. That's exactly what every.
That is true. There's always it's effectively a hostage situation. The same for like Godfather and whatever else that I'll anger everyone by revealing I haven't seen. So I'll lock myself in a room now.
You know what? I haven't used this in so long. Partly because I don't physically meet women anymore now that I live in a bubble and have shifted my life onus towards buying a jet ski instead of reproducing. But even before that,
it's a great use of your stimulus money. Yeah. That's America, baby.
But I haven't done this for years. But in my I think when I was in college, before I learned the skill of hey, do you want to just come get a nightcap, make out? Before I figured out how to do that in a smoother way than that, I would go.
Is that your smooth way?
No. I'm abbreviating it. I'm abbreviating it. But
I mean, nightcap is a grown-up word.
Nightcap's pretty good. No, now honestly, now what I like just the last year, I got pretty good at going at the end of a date or hanging out at a party, hey, do you want to make out? And 90% of the time they're like, yeah, okay. It's just big. But no, what I used to do was go.
The other 10% of the time they're calling HR.
Yeah, that's what you got to quit doing it at the meeting. No, the other thing I would do is I would go, hey, what's your favorite film? Or something like that, and they're like, oh, I love, I don't know, I love what, Andrea, what's a film that regular people like?
I feel very insulted by this. So am I representing regular people in this scenario?
Well, I was going to say woman, but then I felt like that was gendering you and being sexist and stuff. So I was like, Heaton, pull back and bring up the
well, let's think about this. What is a movie that people like? I'm a bad person to ask. I haven't seen a movie in 25 years.
Movie. Sure, Roots, perfect, right? So I'd be like, what's a film you like? And the young lady would say, I really like Roots. And I'd go, oh, it's a great film. I love Roots. Sean Connery's brilliant in Roots. And then she'd go, Sean Connery's not in Roots. And I'm like, yeah, he is. He's in Roots with a tiger. And we'd argue back and forth. And I'd go, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll watch Roots. And if I'm wrong, I'll buy you dinner. And
oh, wow.
And then eventually I was like, this is pretty good. It's also a lot more time and money than really needs to be done if you could do that. So, anyway.
Well, it's really important that we make sure that when we talk to women, we aren't just, direct and forthright. It's important to play mind games and waste everyone's time rewatching movies.
See, exactly. I have evolved slightly, Andrea, in that it used to be based on indirection and manipulation, and now it's just based on direct rejection. It's just let's just save everybody some time here.
But also, Andrea, we tried direct for years. It doesn't work.
The good news is,
all right. I mean, look, I'll be happy to look at some data on direct versus indirect interventions.
Don't bring facts,
please, Andrea, just fax it directly to my jet ski because
Did you hear people are dying on jet skis all the time? Not to ruin your second plan, but that's the headline in New York City. Did you see that, Turner? It happened in the Bronx. Well, not on land. But
are they dying of coronavirus?
I was about to say if they're driving jet skis in the Bronx, they deserve to die.
Dying. Yeah, it was a jet ski death from coronavirus in the Bronx. No, 2 jet skis outside of the Bronx in the water slammed into each other. Both people died.
Yeah.
And apparently everyone's going out onto the water because we're all losing our minds here everywhere, but especially in New York when we're on top of
Here's the thing. I feel bad for anyone.
I didn't even know you could jet ski in New York. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel bad for anyone dying right now not of coronavirus. Yeah. Nobody cares. Yeah. Everyone's just worried about the stats.
Yeah.
Anytime a celebrity's dying and it's on Twitter, they're like, oh, RIP this person. And the first question is of corona? And then they're like, nah, they had a heart attack. And you're like, big deal. And you move on with your day.
Even if I have friends who've been sick or something, they'll email me and be like, oh, sorry, I was sick. I'm like, oh, coronavirus? And they're like, no, something super serious. And you're like, you'll be fine.
Walk it off. It's just gout. Come on. Let's go.
Come back to me when you need a ventilator. All
right. So speaking of boats, Venice gondolas reduce capacity due to overweight tourists. And I'll only read one part of this that I particularly enjoyed. Speaking to La Repubblica on the topic, Raul Roverata, the president of Association of Substitute Gondoliers, didn't mince words. Tourists are now overweight from some countries, bomb loads on boats, and when the boat is fully loaded, the hull sinks and water enters. Advancing with over half a ton of meat on board is dangerous. I do appreciate that he didn't inculcate our country and Australia, the two fattest countries in the world, demonstrably. Right. But all the same, I thought that was funny.
Let me push back on that. This is clearly Germany, because we've always been fat. We didn't just become fat people.
Nice point.
They built, those gondolas were built sturdy in the old days to house us. I don't know how old these gondolas are, but let's say 50 years. Yeah. Okay. And then with the Germans, these Scandinavian types, these guys just got fat. So I blame them. And it's good news that people are becoming as fat as us.
And I would also add that right now Americans can't go to Italy, right? We can't even get there. So it's obviously not us sinking the boats.
Right.
Thank you, travel ban.
It's these fat Italians who've been locked up in their houses singing songs all, for the last 6 months on Twitter. And also eating just cheeseburgers the entire time.
Right,
we're famous Italian cheeseburgers.
We're stuck on lockdown in Venice. Time to just carbo load with abandon. Let's eat nothing but pasta for as long as we can, and then they let them out and they sink them boats. I think you guys are onto something.
Also, how fat do you have to be to sink a boat?
Pretty fat,
That's impressive. I've seen fat people on boats. They usually
how many gondola-related deaths are there in the Bronx right now? Is that a big thing? Are they able to are they able to swerve around?
Sinking jet skis.
Yeah, I think we've been too fat for gondolas since the start.
If you're so fat you sink a jet ski. If you sink a jet ski via blubber, you really need to think about what you're doing with your life. That is at that point.
You would just fall over before you sink it.
Yeah, but, I think at that point, just become a manatee. Just like if you're sinking jet skis, just be like, I'm going to become the jet ski man.
Can I
Well, if you become a manatee, you get a sponsorship from like third graders,
That's
right?
True,
Didn't you all adopt a manatee in third grade?
Yeah, they come out and like take pictures of you, and they're like,
$25 a month.
Brian's doing great. Brian's making new friends with the other manatees.
I think no matter what's happening with coronavirus, the minute someone sinks a jet ski from being too fat, the quarantine's over.
Yeah. Then we're talking about serious health issues.
There are other health risks that are more serious.
I like
just
that.
Go straight down.
Yep.
Yeah. We're definitely all going to get heart attacks in the next 5 years, right? Like just from our sedentary whatever.
Has your diet declined? Because my diet's definitely declined. Like my willpower has declined.
Quality or quantity?
My quantity's increased in terms of the food I'm eating.
Right. I was like, are you eating less? What's the matter with you?
The quality has declined. The quality's declined for a couple of reasons. One, I'm staying with my folks, so I don't feel quite as cavalier about occupying the refrigerator, which makes me go out and eat more. But also, I'm lazier and I have worse impulse control. And like it used to be, I could eat like 3 to 5 Oreos, and that'd be it. And now if I open up a sleeve of Oreos, I'm eating every goddamn Oreo within the next 15 minutes. I'm going to put them in a big old bowl of milk and eat it with a ladle like a psychopath.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's great. It's so good.
Cookie Crisp, but just not messing around with that fake wannabe cookie stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good, but also like the later that evening, you're like, am I going to die? I guess I think this is going to take a year off my life.
I've been eating worse because A, I don't cook, and B, I give myself permission. I'm like, well, I don't go to the grocery store that much. It's safer not to, blah, blah, blah. So all the perishables die, like within the ones that are within the first week. And then like literally last night, my boyfriend and I ate just like leftover biscotti for dinner, just biscotti. Like it's just crap. Like we're just eating. We have one bag of chips and we're going to have that tonight. Like that's all that's happening in our house, and a can of beans.
Yeah.
It's very much like the road. Yeah.
Pretty Heaton style. I'm a can of beans guy. I can do that. Yeah. Turner, I can cut this out if you want. Do you want to plug your wife's cooking show?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you very much. Wow, I really should have thought of that right there.
Yeah. Which one of us is married to your wife, Turner?
I like how you set me up for it.
Someone here knew a cooking show.
I know. I eat great because my wife teaches cooking classes all the time. So she does Chinese cooking classes. It's called Cooking with Yeye. You can go to cookingwithye.com. She does classes every Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern. She teaches you Chinese cooking from her family's kitchen in Suzhou, China. Pretty awesome. Sign up for it.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to join it. You want to join Heaton sometime?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to see if my mom wants to do it with me and jump in. Yeah,
it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
the blast. And also, you get to see me be like the lackey in the back who gets yelled at for messing up like the sound.
My mom says that a lot. She's like, Turner seems like such a cute, funny guy, but can he just stir a bowl quietly in the background? That's what I really want to watch him do. Is like operate an egg beater and then get yelled at for grabbing the wrong noodles.
Has he ever chopped a cucumber in his life? Jesus.
Yes, it's a real bonus.
Yeah.
From Maine. Maine man saws neighbor's garage in half amid boundary disputes. So I read through the story. I started out against the guy with, I don't know what it's called a sawzall, I think, or a sawville. I know a reasonable amount about saw. I know the difference between a hacksaw and a bow saw, but I don't, it was like, I gather he had a giant chainsaw, like a giant industrial chainsaw. And he sawed the garage in half. Basically the old owner of the house he was friends with, or excuse me, owner of the garage he was friends with. The garage was technically on his land, but he was buddies with the guy. It didn't bother him. Then when that guy died, his wife moved away and started renting it out to a series of people. The renters would throw loud parties and throw trash around, and there was all of these disputes that happened. So they finally went, hey, we own this. We want you to leave the garage. Called a land surveyor out. The guy renting it came back and was like, can I grab my dad's ashes? And they were like, yeah, of course. And then he just threw trash everywhere, threw trash into the other guy's yard, started, throwing. And so the guy took a giant chainsaw and cut the garage in half. And I'll say this, until I read the story, I read that and I was like, did Rand Paul move to Maine? Because I remember that he has problems with neighbors. I was like, maybe he's quarantining up in the New England to avoid humidity and ended up doing this. I don't know. You guys get along well with your neighbors? Have you had to cut their apartments in half?
I mean, New York City, all my neighbors are annoying and play music too loud because I am an old, boring person and I get irritated. But this story reminds me of something that I didn't realize there were others of, which is my boyfriend's mother's ex-boyfriend situation, but with a driveway where he owned this property and then he had a neighbor, and the neighbor's property weirdly went into his. So the neighbor's driveway was technically his. And he was friendly with those neighbors, but then they moved away and some shitty people came in, and it was like this whole thing where it was like, I need my driveway back, but it was their driveway. But they don't have, and they never resolved it, but you can't saw a driveway in half the way you can a shed.
You'd have to just build barricades or something.
Yeah.
This just shows, you can always get further with sugar than vinegar, or what's that saying? Something like that. Salt. I don't know. Hibiscus. I don't know what the bad one is.
Yeah.
Pepper. Whatever you can tell I'm a cooking expert, by the way. This is going to be a good class.
You get more honey with sugar than paprika. That's the old saying.
Than pepper.
How much hibiscus should I get if I want to persuade someone?
Yeah, this guy lived for decades where he got the old man River got to have half of the other guy's property for his garage just because he was nice to him.
Right.
And then his kids come along and these partiers come along, their house gets sawed in half. This is why I was a communications major. Everybody tells you it's a bullshit major and it's not a real degree. You'll never find a job, and all that's true. But I've never had a house sawed in half.
Right.
Because I know how to talk to people. In college, that's the first thing you learn at school. Is if you're going to have a house party, if you're going to have a kegger, you will go around, knock on all the neighbors' door, you invite them to the keg.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's and it works in politics too. You implicate the neighbors in the crime,
right.
And then no one calls the cops because you're all underage drinking. No one calls the cops on you.
Yeah.
It's psychology. I don't know. So Winnie's probably a psychologist.
When I was back in Manhattan, I don't think you saw my apartment in Manhattan, Andrea, but Turner, you came over at one point, didn't you? Or did you? I can't remember.
I came to a party, going away party.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
I'm glad to see I wasn't invited to this. Or maybe I was and I just didn't show up. I don't know which one.
They wanted to invite you, and I said no.
Well, that sounds about right.
I don't remember, so I'm going to claim I invited you, and you blew me off, and I'm still angry about it. That's the reality I've decided to retcon into this story.
Excellent.
We had this awesome courtyard, which I realize for people in the middle of the country, that's nothing to you to own a yard. But in New York, to have a courtyard is like the equivalent of owning a stadium in Iowa. It was a big deal.
King.
Yeah, I had garden parties, and at one point, some comedian friends approached me and wanted to throw an actual show in the courtyard. And we had we did a full comedy show. About 60 people turned up, and we did comedy.
I wasn't booked on that show. That's pretty great.
Well, for the record, it wasn't my show.
Comedians. 60 comedians were on it, actually.
Yeah, I invited literally every comedian I knew except for Andrea, and we all had a good old time in the backyard. But there was a band as well, and I talked to them in advance, and I was like, here's the deal. Like, we're gonna do this music, but we're surrounded by neighbors here, and it's very important to me to be a good neighbor. So if anybody calls, it's Saturday. We're gonna be done with the speakers by 10 p.m. We're gonna, like that's a hard limit. We can hang out, but we're not gonna do any music after 10. And if anybody just calls me and says there's a problem, we're gonna we're gonna stop. And it wasn't. Although there was a guy that would literally call the cops every time we did anything. And that guy was an idiot because like the cops turned out a different time, and I had like 8 people over, and it was a reasonably sedate soiree, and I came out, and the cops went.
Were you invited to that soiree, Turner?
I'm not that high up the list.
Okay, all right. I'm not that exclusive.
The soiree crowd is my friends from high-ranking banks and Victoria's Secret catalogs that I chill with, but
sounds like Epstein was involved.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but my good friend Jeffrey Epstein was there with some high school students that
Ghislaine Maxwell makes a great peach cobbler.
Right. Yeah, we did some karaoke. It's really, people don't appreciate the great loss to karaoke since Epstein killed himself. There was some good things.
I look forward to that trending on Twitter.
But anyway, the cops turned up and they knocked on the door. They're like, hey, they were embarrassed. They're like, we heard a noise complaint, and I was like, oh yeah, it's probably us. I'm throwing a party. And they were like, it's probably not you. And I was like, no, we have a party going on right now. Do you want to come to the back? You can like hang out or just like check out on it. And they were like, no, like it's really fine. And I was like, I'm just telling you, like, I don't think there's any other parties going on. And I got a courtyard. It's probably me. And they were like, this guy that lives in your building calls us literally every night. So have a good evening. Yeah. We'll talk to you later. And I was like, that guy screwed the pooch. He the cops dug me.
Every building in New York has one of those people, I think. And also, but the other thing is, it's just a good idea to know your neighbors, because like otherwise you end up like those people who live next door to the Unabomber, and they were like, he seemed like a good guy. Killing everybody.
I think if you invited the Unabomber to parties like twice a year, you would slowly pick up that he was the Unabomber. I think that's right.
But once
good for national security.
Like, he's a genius.
He'd
bring an acoustic guitar, and he'd have like this really long song that was like vaguely Bob Dylan-ish.
Right. Yeah.
You need more than one touch point to confirm.
I'd say this: anytime anybody carries a manifesto around in a plastic grocery sack, that's somebody you should keep your eye on. That strikes me as Unabomber behavior.
Is a manifesto just what they call a book, but if you're crazy?
I think it has to be not bound, right? You wrote it so hastily that it's just loose paper.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Like a legal pen, but even that's torn out. Like it cannot be in any kind of order.
Which I think, going back to the guy in Ukraine, I believe he had a 500-page manifesto that he was trying to get people to read. But all he did was endorse Joaquin Phoenix.
If a Twitter thread is long enough, does that approach manifesto or no? Because a manifesto could be a blog post.
By the way, I just thought of this. If you're a crazy person picking a Joaquin Phoenix movie to base your life off of, how do you not pick Joker?
Well, because it probably got sufficient coverage. I never heard Earthlings.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's doing fine. He probably thought about hijacking a bus, but then he looked at the box office figures, and he's like, it's doing fine. I don't need to hijack a bus for this. Earthlings, however, that one requires some sort of international hostage scenario. From Wales.
I'm gonna watch Earthlings after all this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm genuinely curious. Well done, that guy. Also, wait, hold on. Are producers going to have to start coming up with like hostage negotiation scenarios? Like, like the Thatcher government said, we do not negotiate with hostages. That's now become the American government position. Are like directors and producers going to have to do that? Yeah.
Well, that came up with that whole North Korea releasing that movie. I don't know what names of anything.
Right.
Remember
that one with the. Yeah.
And it was a whole international thing. Yeah.
The dictator,
Yeah, so I guess they do need to negotiate with terrorists. I feel good with Hollywood producers dealing with our national security. Why not?
Yeah, that seems like a good idea.
A right step forward.
Right, yeah. From Wales, appeal after dead cat dumped at pet shop turns out to be live snake. So a guy went into a pet shop in Wales. He had a pillowcase wrapped in a blanket or something. He ran in and he went, there's a dead cat in here, dropped it, and then dashed out. And they opened the pillowcase up, and it turned out to be a corn snake. And the thing that I can't figure out is, okay, one, was this just a really crappy Welsh version of like a Monty Python reboot? Like, was this the dead parrot sketch and they just screwed it up?
Right.
And then the other thing I'm trying to figure out is, was the guy pissed off at the pet store and so he gave them a live snake? Or did he have a live snake and he couldn't take care of it, but he didn't know what to do with it, so he told them it was a dead cat and fled? Like, he honestly, the thing that I'm bothered about by this story is the lack of emotional context, because I can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a live snake you're trying to get rid of, I could see taking it to a pet store. That's almost laudable, right? That's humane rather than just killing it or putting it in a river or something like that, right? Why add the bit about the cat? Yeah. Or is it one of those, that Craigslist thing where they were like, we found your cat, and it was like this horrible possum? Like, maybe he just doesn't know what a cat is.
Could be. Yeah. Maybe Welsh cats are just that ugly. Like, you get into Wales, the cats don't have legs. They slither around.
You know what they
and he's
say
like,
about Welsh cats.
looks like a cat to me.
Yeah.
I can't do a Welsh accent.
Have you been to Wales?
A couple times, yeah. Wales is great. Good fun.
I thought you lived in Wales, Heaton. What am I thinking?
No, I lived in Edinburgh, but I've been down to Wales 2-3 times. Wales is fun. Like, I went to... the first time I went there, I went to, oh gosh, I just went blank. Not Swansea. What's the capital of Wales? I went completely blank.
Wales City?
I went to Wales City, and my buddy Evan and I got drunk standing downwind of it because it is so drunk on a Friday night. It is so amazingly drunk on a Friday night. We were watching like old ladies in their 70s, like late 70s, with their elbows linked together, struggling to walk down the street as they drunk came into McDonald's and hit on high school students. Like, everybody was at one point. Evan and I are walking around, and also Wales doesn't get a lot of tourism from America, so they're actually kind of excited. And like, when I went over there, it was in the middle of the Bush years. Americans were not well favored in the United Kingdom, and the English were kind of suspicious of us.
You were like, just wait.
Yeah.
No, they were always happy to see us. They were really flattered that we were visiting. And Evan and I are walking around Cardiff. That's it. It's not Wales City. It's Cardiff. How did I forget that?
Sure.
We're walking around Cardiff.
Is Welsh for Wales City.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's Wales City in Welsh. But we were walking around, and this guy hears Evan and I talking, and he goes, again, I can't do a Welsh accent, but he goes, "Are you American?" And we went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Have you played Grand Theft Auto 2? And we went, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'll make you feel at home." And he just lurches into traffic, opens up a car door, and pulls a guy out. Like halfway, like the guy's like leaning out of the car, and the guy gives us a thumbs up and then just drives away. And I was like, this is amazing. This is like a really happy zombie film.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I've never been there, but they don't strike me as the brightest. And so I'm wondering, back to this story, back to this prank. It just feels like an odd prank to pull, because from what I understand, the way you pull a prank, and correct me if I'm wrong, you present a good scenario, and then you trick them with a bad scenario.
Is this a communications major insight? Is this what you learned?
He did a whole segment on pranking.
You want a knuckle sandwich, and they think you're giving them, there might be some ham and Swiss cheese. It's a sandwich, and then you hit them in the face. That's a prank from where I come from. But this guy presents them with a bad scenario. Do you want a dead cat? And then he gives them a worse one, snake, or an equally bad one, depending upon how scared you are of cats or snakes.
Right.
So maybe pranks just didn't make it.
Maybe so. I mean, I like Wales. I think Wales is fun, but I'll say that the English generally regard it as Arkansas plus castles. Like, that's basically their takeaway from it. And then some of my Welsh friends describe Wales as Ireland minus the fun. So I don't know. Maybe so. Maybe pranks just aren't a part of Welsh culture.
I bet they get pranks in Arkansas.
I suspect they do. Yeah.
So I forgot. So I have been to Wales. I spent an hour and a half there on a train last summer, going from the north of England to London, and I guess we cut through Wales. And the train
makes
stopped,
total sense logistically.
Yeah, makes total sense. I think I took like a 20-pound train or whatever. Just went 2 miles an hour, and I got coffee, and there was a family, and then I got back on the train and fell asleep until London. So I missed out on all the fun. Is what I'm saying.
It's cool.
Really unremarkable time in Wales.
They also, I got to say, hats off. They've really regrown the Welsh language. Like, it had kind of like the English had been stepping on them for 1,000 years.
Crazy.
Like England spent 1,000. Like, England did it to Cornwall, where England took over Cornwall, and they're like, "You're not Cornish anymore. You're English. You'll be speaking English from now on." And Cornwall kind of knuckled under. Whereas Wales, they did that for 1,000 years. The Welsh kept up at it, and they're still speaking Welsh. And it's really funny because there aren't swear words in Welsh. So if you're on a bus, they'll be like, Welsh, 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 fuck, bastard. Welsh, 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 Welsh. This is very strange. Wow. Yeah, English has really become predominant in terms of swearing. So, final quick story. Punches water balloons thrown in Taiwan Parliament melee. This happened, I don't know all the ins and outs of this. It looks like the old KMT party from Chiang Kai-shek got ousted by the DPP a while back, and they don't like each other.
History with Eaton. Yeah,
history with Eaton. They evidently they don't get along so well. And the new lady that the DPP is coming in to be like the head government inspector, all the Chiang Kai-shek fans hate. And so they all brought in water balloons to Parliament, and they started throwing water balloons at each other and punching people. But the part that threw me off was that it says that the DPP, was it? The DPP, they all had umbrellas and cardboard shields at hand, which tells me that this happens with some regularity. Like if you keep an umbrella and a cardboard shield at your desk in Parliament, that means you're anticipating projectiles on a regular basis.
I love this. I want all of my politicians to fight. I think like hand-to-hand combat, I'm saying. Yeah. I want to go back to the dark ages. I mean, we're halfway there anyway, so let's go all the way back. We got pandemics, we had plagues. Mm-hmm. Let's have politicians. The way you became a politician back then was you killed a bunch of people in the region until everyone was scared of you.
Now I'm Prince of Wales. All the other Welshmen are dead.
You declare yourself king.
I've seen the Game of Thrones. I know how this works. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm sick of these pencil pushers, these guys sitting on couches eating, Frito Lay's potato chips, pushing legislation past me. And these guys are huffing and puffing, walking to the subway at the end of the night. I want a guy who can. Let's replace the water balloons with rocks.
Yeah, I was just saying, I like how Turner escalated this extremely from like child's birthday party to warfare, but I'm fine with it.
Water balloons is a little childish. That's the only thing I'm out on. Dead cats. Why not get that guy over here?
This seems like a very interesting way to pick our elected leaders. Like the 2020 would be an election between Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jesse Ventura, and that guy Kane, who's like a mayor in Kentucky, who's a professional wrestler. Like it would be. The Rock would be like a serious contender.
I mean, he was under discussion anyway, so yeah.
I mean, at this point, I could beat up Schwarzenegger. The guy's like 80.
Yeah, he did. That one high school student knocked him down. Although, granted, he did kick him from behind, kicked a 70-year-old man from behind without giving him any advance. And he seems to have taken it pretty well. I got to say, he took it a lot better than I would have.
Yeah. Isn't he surrounded by goats right now? Wasn't that something that came out early in the quarantine? Can he have his goats as a form of defense in these fights?
I would assume so.
Yeah, doesn't he have?
Yeah, there was that great video where it's like it was Arnold Schwarzenegger in his kitchen talking about it's so important that we quarantine and we protect each other. And as he's doing it, like goats would enter his kitchen and he would pet them and identify them by name. And I don't remember that he ever even explained what was happening, like whether just reality was fully breaking down or what.
It actually turns out he's had an 18-year love affair with one of the goats, and they have a child. I don't know if you read the end of that story.
And that's how satyrs are born. They're the love spring between goats and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they retroactively populate Greek mythology.
He really got out from under that story, though.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Was the best thing that happened to him. People hated him for a while because, he was married to a Kennedy, and then he turned out for like 20 years. He was in love with his maid, and he had kids and everything. And then they got a divorce, and really people were really out on Schwarzenegger. But then Trump gets elected, and then he was like, I'm going to kick Trump's ass. Yeah. And like every person in America was like, I'm back on board with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
That occupied like 10 years of our collective feelings about Schwarzenegger. 100% forgot.
Did you guys remember when we had opinions on stuff for 10 years? When that was the thing? Like, because now the news cycle like changes every 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah,
I let Twitter tell me what to believe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Just put a Twitter poll out there and know that the best and brightest will elucidate your opinion.
I take that side.
I don't even put out polls. I just see what's trending, and I just go with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever's most popular is what I use.
Nice. Yep. Well, guys, I think we've sorted out all of the world's issues that have been relevant this week. I thank you for joining me, Turner Sparks and Dr. Andrea Jones-Rooy. One more time, where can people find you? What shows are you doing?
You can find me at Turner turnersparks.com. I host the Living Room Comedy Show.
Turner,
on Zoom
hold on, Turner,
every
it
Friday.
cut out. Can you repeat that? Turnersparks.com, was it?
Yes, you can find me at turnersparks.com. I host the Living Room Comedy Show on Zoom every Friday night. Get tickets to that at turnersparks.com.
And your wife's going to teach me how to make Chinese food.
And cookingwithYaya.com. You can do cooking class with Andrew Heaton. Email Heaton. Take the class.
I'm gonna email your wife and be like, I should get a 5% discount.
Yes.
I feel like this needs to be an event because I would watch that live stream just for the record.
It's the two of you, a private class. Great.
And Andrea,
idea.
Andrea, do you have your next show booked for next week? Do you know who your guests are or the topic?
Yeah, so next week is actually our last show before we're taking August off because I'm going to lose my mind if I keep thinking about politics. And politics will probably go away in August, so it's probably not a
we
big deal.
should solve everything by August.
Yeah. So who's a professor at the University of Michigan, and comedian Igor Martinez, who is a friend of ours from the New York City comedy scene. And we are talking about belonging and what that means and how that drives political participation. So whether different racial and ethnic groups feel that they belong in the U.S. and whether they turn out to vote as a result.
Interesting.
So anyone who wants to push turnout in November, which either would be to vote or kill people, depending on the state of the pandemic, it should be an interesting show.
Fantastic.
Can I ask you guys a question before we go? Because both of you are a lot smarter than me on this. Who do you think Biden's picking as his VP? Who's it down to?
Okay, so this is really important. Can I throw this out, guys? So this episode, we're recording this on Wednesday, but it's coming out on Friday. So by the time this episode comes out, I will have announced my candidacy as running for vice president on the Whig Party ticket. I'm going to almost certainly be on the ballot in Louisiana, possibly some other states. I'm not running with a presidential running mate. I think that's crazy. I'm reconstituting the Whig Party, but VP is the highest level that we're running this year. And I am open to running on a unity ticket with other candidates. So if Kanye West and or Joe Biden want to have me, I'm happy to do all of these things. I get it if Joe Biden wants to have a candidate fully dedicated to his presidency, but I think it'd be kind of cool if he teamed up with me. And if he wins, great, I'll be his vice president. If I win, I don't really know what happens if I win. I think that just whoever wins the most presidential votes becomes president, and I become vice president. But I'll be hitting you up for campaign donations and endorsements later off air.
Yes, my vote.
Nice.
I will waste my vote on you.
We're re-engineering Thursday's show to be about how do we get turnout for you. So stay tuned for that.
Wait, can I give you your campaign slogan?
Yeah.
Waste your vote on me.
And can it be waste with a WH like wigs?
Oh my God, yes, that's it. Waste your vote on me. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, guys. You're both officially my campaign staff now. Thank you so much, and thank you for doing the show. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.